Bats dwell in darkness and oftentimes are associated with fear or danger. But the animals, they do kind of get a bad rep.
Yeah, they kind of do for many reasons. But there's a new book called The Weird and Wonderful World of Bats that's exploring these misunderstood creatures. And joining us to continue the conversation is the author of the book, Dr. Alyson Brokaw, an ecologist and biologist. Thank you so much for joining us. Certainly interesting creatures, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. They are my favorite.
I love that. So start by sharing what brought you to the science of bats. What was the attraction here?
Sure. So growing up, I always knew I loved animals, and I used to love seeing the big brown bats flying around above my parents' house. And so when I started going to college and got interested in ecology, I just became really fascinated with the biology of bats and was excited by how much there was still left for us to learn.
So your book dives into the world of bats and how they can be misunderstood creatures. How have cultural perceptions of bats really evolved over time?
Yeah, so that is a great question. And I think it does depend on what culture we're talking about. So one of the amazing things about bats is they are found pretty much everywhere around the world. So for a lot of European-based cultures, we tend to associate them with sort of witches and spooky type of atmosphere. But other cultures actually view bats as things like good luck, or even they feature as heroes in some folklore.
What I was surprised to find out this morning is there are more than 1,400 species of bats, which actually makes them the second most diverse group of mammals. Curious what might contribute to this high level of diversity. That's a lot.
Yeah, and actually, I just checked the number this morning. If you want an exact number of species, it is 1,487 officially.
Dang.
Wow.
Crazy.
And one of the really cool things about bats, so they are a mammal. So like humans, like dogs, they give birth to live young, they have fur, but they are the only mammals capable of true flight. And that ability to fly has made it so that they can spread into a wide range of different types of habitats. They can reach islands that other animals would have a harder time getting to. And with that ability to disperse and move has come opportunities to diversify into all sorts of different roles, whether it's eating fruit, feeding on flowers, eating insects, etc.
So talking about eating fruits and food and insects, kind of talk to us about their reliance when it comes to smell and the sound when looking for their food. How could these adaptations maybe affect their evolutionary success?
Yeah, so they're really important for these animals' abilities to function and survive in their environments. So my background is as a sensory biologist, so I've always been really interested in things like sense of smell and hearing. And with bats, they have exceptional hearing. They are very well known for their echolocation, so using sound to get around and detect objects. But in addition to echolocation, bats also they can see, so they are able to see what they're looking at. And some bats rely mostly on vision. And then for our fruit bats and our nectar feeding bats, the sense of smell is really important for helping bats find food and also discriminate between, say, ripe and unripe fruit.
Fascinating. So what can the study of these things teach us about health and aging in humans?
Yeah, so of the 19 species of mammal that live longer than expected relative to humans, 18 of those species are a type of bat. So just by starting to understand sort of what is it that bats are doing at the cellular level, at the level of their anatomy and physiology that makes them able to live longer than expected, we'll be able to start to uncover some of those mechanisms behind how they are able to do it and hopefully apply those principles to drug development and things that would help benefit humans in the long run.
Okay, so before we let you go, can you tell us where we can pick up your book?
Yeah, so my favorite place to buy books is bookshop.org, which is a website where you can select your favorite local or indie bookstore to support, but you still get to do it by shopping online.
I don't know, Alyson, you might be changing my viewpoint about bats this morning.
I never thought
That's
so
the
much
goal.
about bats, but they're so interesting.
Starts with one conversation at a time and just keeps on spreading. Thank you for your time this morning. Fascinating.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Who knew?
So much we can learn from bats.
I want to go read more about bats.
I want to study up too. Maybe get her book. That would be a good read.